DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence, and put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all that, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all under the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is be the smartest, not the loudest. And what that means when I say that, and of course I'm going to explain it as we get into the points here today, but this is really all about there are times in life when you do want to make a lot of noise and draw a lot of attention to yourself and make sure that everybody notices you. You want to make a spectacle of yourself to get that attention. Attention can be traded on for all the things that you want in life, whether that's happiness, success, money, fame, or whatever it is that floats your boat. Maybe a combination of some of the above or some other things that I haven't mentioned. But at the same time, there are times in life when you don't need to make noise, when you just need to prove your substance. You need to prove your worth. And you prove that by bringing your game to the table. So when I say be the smartest, doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a high level of intelligence as measured by some kind of IQ test or something like that. What it means is sometimes you just need to have the most game, the best performance, deliver the most results, and that will speak for itself. You don't need to make the most noise and tell everybody how good you are. You can just let your game speak for itself. And your job is discerning when to do which one. In episode 1431 of my podcast, I told you, I call this a masterclass. Sometimes I call it a podcast so I don't lose it. I make sure I don't lose you with the vernacular. But episode 1431 of this masterclass / podcast, the topic was discernment, your skill of perception and judgment. Meaning discernment is just being able to determine when to do what thing. All right, well, should I do it this way this time or should I do it that way? Should I go in this direction or go in that direction? Sometimes you're going to have to make judgment calls. And in life, it's not just about the information. Okay, let me do it this time because I heard somebody say it. It's understanding the difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is having information. Wisdom is knowing which information to apply at what times and which information not to apply at different times. Because if you look at all the information you have, when you really think about it, some of that information may be in conflict with other information. Now, you know both things. Which one do you use? Because they're in direct conflict. Your wisdom is how you determine which information to apply in specific situations. So today, we're talking about being the smartest, not the loudest. So today is about specifically when you should let your game speak for you instead of letting your mouth and the attention drawing ability that you have speak for you. This is just an aspect of this, another piece of information. Your wisdom will allow you to determine which one you should use given the situation at hand. So let's get into it. And actually, before I do, let me tell you, I send out a daily motivation text every single morning. If you would like to receive it, and I know that you do, and I want you to. So I want you to text me at my number so that I know you want it, and I'll put you in my text community. And it's completely free of charge. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Text me at that number. You'll get my daily motivation text every single day, free of charge, straight to your phone to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. Point number one, the topic once again today is be the smartest, not the loudest. Number one, when your work is good enough, the results say enough. And I just explained this in the introduction to this episode. You don't need to add to the conversation when your work is good enough. When you've done enough in your performance and everybody can see it and it's public and it's clear exactly what happened and it's clear exactly how good you are and what you bring to the table, you don't need to say anything. You don't need to add to the subject. Just leave it right there where it is. Sometimes it's better to say things exactly as it needs to be stated using the skill of brevity, which we talked about in episode 1738. And sometimes brevity is not in giving a speech. Sometimes brevity is just going out there performing, delivering, let the performance speak, and don't add anything to the conversation. That's brevity as well. Sometimes you can just leave it where it is. The trade-off, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the trade-off when you are not doing extra things to draw attention to yourself is that it might take more time to get attention on you when you're quiet. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer to get people to notice what you're bringing to the table if you're not being the loudest person in the room. That's not all the time. Again, we just talked about wisdom versus knowledge. Sometimes this is the situation and sometimes it's not the case. But understand the part of the other side of that trade-off, the other side of that coin, is that it is often more respected when you don't add to the conversation. You just let your work speak for itself, even if it takes a little bit longer for you to get recognized for it, because when people finally do recognize you, they'll say, damn, this person has been this good, they've been delivering this much value, and they're bringing this kind of performance to the table, and they're producing this level of results. And man, they're not even trying to toot their own horn. They're not even trying to draw attention to themselves, because we all understand socially, sometimes people can be looked down upon for tooting their own horn and drawing attention to themselves. And listen, sometimes it's okay to say, well, so what? To hell with the people who are looking down on me for tooting my own horn. I did it because I'm actually good. I can actually deliver on the attention that I'm asking for, and I deserve the attention. And sometimes it's okay to look at it like that. But other times, again, it's knowledge versus wisdom, folks. Other times, it's better for you to say absolutely nothing and let people find out on their own, because it makes you appear to have a higher level of humility, even if it's faked. Even if you're faking the humility, or even if it's real, people will admire you more simply because you didn't try to draw too much attention to yourself. You allowed them to find you, or you made yourself find the bull, rather than going out and saying, hey, everybody, look at me. Again, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. It's not a value judgment. It's me helping you understand that other people out there, they will make value judgments of you based on not your performance, but based on how they found out about you in the first place. And everybody's unique, right? We all have different ways of looking at people. Some of us like the person who draws all the attention to themselves. Maybe we see something in them that is entertaining, maybe something in them that we want to be ourselves. And others, we like the person who isn't drawing any attention, or isn't trying to purposely or in a audacious way try to draw attention to themselves. They just show their game and they deliver it. And we like that because they're more quiet when it comes to forcing the issue. And we just appreciate that. Not to say either one is better than the other. Just I want you to understand that different people will judge things different ways. So you have to develop the discernment to gauge, when should I use one and when should I use the other. It's very tempting to be loud if you believe you can say something when you're being loud, especially when you notice that everybody else around you is making noise and you feel like you're missing out on the party. You know what I'm saying? You feel as if you need to make noise to make sure somebody recognizes how good you are, the same way that these other people are making noise and getting recognition for themselves. So you're like, all right, they're doing all this stuff to make noise and they're getting attention. Like, hey, I'm just as good as them. You might even be better than them. Maybe you want to go get attention and do the same thing that they're doing. But keep in mind, as long as your work is good, in the long run, everybody's going to get the recognition that they deserve. Because in the short term, somebody could have no substance whatsoever and they could get a whole lot of attention for themselves, even though they don't really bring anything to the table. Any of you been around somebody like that? In episode number 1286, I told you how to be a person of substance. And in episode 1620, the style and substance mix for building an audience. There are some people who don't have a lot of substance, but they can draw a lot of attention. The problem is they won't last, because the more people get exposed to them, the more clear it's going to become, okay, this person doesn't actually have any substance. We're going to stop paying attention to all their attention drawing antics. Now, someone who can draws attention and they actually have substance, they have the combination, okay, that's the style and substance mix, like I just told you. Episode 1620, if you haven't heard that, the link is down below in the show notes. But remember, whether you are trying to draw attention to yourself or not, as long as your work is good, it will eventually be recognized. People won't have a choice but to pay attention. Good work speaks for itself. You hear me? Good work speaks for itself. It doesn't hurt if you make some noise and draw attention to your good work. But we all know the cliches about action speaking louder than words, right? We've all heard that, and we've all used that saying. Let yours do exactly that. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is be the smartest, not the loudest. Sound and fury signify nothing. Sometimes noise is simply a distraction that people use to draw your attention away from their lack of substance. So they make all that noise, so you're paying attention to the sideshow, and you never even really actually notice that, hey, there's actually no substance behind what this person is doing. And there are plenty of products that have come and gone in the marketplace in our lifetimes and way before us, and it will continue to happen after us, of products and offerings and people who have very little substance, but because they're good at the sideshow and the distraction and the sound and fury, that people are paying attention to that and not even noticing that, hey, there's actually nothing, no meat and potatoes behind this individual. You know what I'm saying? If you're calling for attention, make sure you have some meat and potatoes behind what you're offering. Meat and potatoes meaning being a person of substance. Make sure there's some substance in your product or your offering or your Whatever it is you want people to pay attention to, make sure you got some substance there so that once you get all their attention, they're actually happy that they gave it to you. When there's meat and potatoes behind what you're offering, you won't need to keep making too much noise. You won't need to make noise forever because people will come and they'll stay on their own volition. In my experience, and maybe also in your experience, the loudest person in the room is often the person with the least amount of substance behind all that noise. That's my experience. What I've noticed is that the person with the most substance usually has to say the least. They usually have to hype themselves up the least. They don't do the most to get everybody to notice them. They don't have to, because once someone notices them and comes in, they're not leaving. I had one of my boys when I was growing up, my man Tim, we grew up as neighbors and we played on a lot of local basketball teams together. And one of the things that I remember Tim would always say, I wrote an article about this a few years ago. Sometimes on our basketball teams, he would be a player who came off the bench in the games. And we would always, as kids, we would always talk shit to each other. Who's the starter? Who's coming off the bench? Because the starters were looked at as like the best players are the starters. And then the lesser players are the guys who come off the bench. And sometimes Tim would come off the bench. And I remember he would say to me sometimes, Dre, look, yeah, I'm coming off the bench, but once I get in the game, I'm not coming out of the game because I'm going to play so good when I get in the game that they're not going to pull me out. And that idea is the exact thing that I'm telling you here. When you're a person of substance, even if people go and look at all the other people drawing attention to themselves before they notice you, when they finally do notice you, they're going to stick around simply because you have so much substance. They're like, damn, I wish I had found this person first because I don't need anything else. I'm going to just stick with this individual right here. As I said, in my experience, the person making the most noise to draw attention to themselves usually has the most to prove because they don't have much substance behind what they're offering. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. Every rule has exceptions, but understand exceptions prove the rule. Every rule has exceptions, but every exception is just further proof of the rule. You will get your time to speak for yourself if you're not getting it right now, whether through your words or through your work. Just make sure you're ready to deliver when the opportunity comes. Your time is going to come. Just make sure when it comes, you don't get caught sleeping, not ready, not prepared, and or with no substance to offer. Preparation is the mark of the true professional. I talk about this in my book, The Third Day. I talk about it all the time in many episodes here on the show. The true professional is always prepared to deliver, even though they may not get the call to deliver. You understand that? So when that call comes in, the true professional is already ready to deliver because they've been waiting for this opportunity, and they have made themselves continually stay ready, even though they didn't know the call to be ready was even going to come in. Point number 3. The topic once again today is be the smartest, not the loudest. There is a time to make noise and draw attention to yourself. Just understand that time is not all the time. And that's the thing that I want you to get from, one of the things I want you to get from today's class. Wisdom means know when to be loud and know when to be quiet. Simple as that. There's a use for both, but that use is strategic, meaning you are doing it in a calculated way. Okay, I'm going to be loud at this point so I can draw attention to this thing right here. You're not just going to keep being loud forever and not having end game. All right, in the 48 Laws of Power, I believe it was chapter 30, Robert Greene says in that book, plan all the way to the end. So if you're going to start doing something, know how you're going to end it. You're going to get into something, understand and think about and strategize for how you're going to get out of it. All right, don't get into something without having a plan for how you're going to get out, because a lot of things in life are easy to get started on, but they're hard to extract yourself from if you make bad decisions in the process of executing. So don't start something as a means to an end, but don't even have a process for how you actually get to the end or what you're going to do when you get to what you think is going to be the end. And the last time that I checked, there was no such thing as reckless silence, but there is a such thing as reckless noise. And there's a such thing as reckless calls for attention. I never saw anyone be accused or heard of anyone being accused of being reckless with their silence. Never heard of someone being accused of being reckless with their not drawing attention to themselves. But I have heard of people being reckless with drawing too much attention or trying too hard to get attention or trying too hard to get everyone, all eyes on them, and then failing because they didn't have any actual substance to deliver with once they got all that attention. Actions make a point much more strongly, and they last a lot longer in the minds of people who experience those actions than words. Let me say that again. People will remember and will feel a deeper impact from actions than they do words. That doesn't mean words are completely worthless. Words can matter, and you put the right combination of words together with the right energy, That can make a lasting impact on people as well. But actions speak louder than words. We've all heard that before, right? You've heard the phrase, well, I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are speaking so loud. It's something like that. I butchered the phrase, but people will say, your actions are speaking so loudly that I can't hear the words that you're saying, right? We all value someone's actions more than we value their words, because we know words are a dime a dozen. People speak 10 to 20,000 words every single day. How many of them do they actually mean? How many of them actually matter? Those words, I mean, not the people. We don't know. Probably not much. Maybe a certain percentage of the words, but usually not all of the words. But actions, an action is a commitment. When someone takes an action, they're committing themselves because they're actually physically doing something. You can say anything about any subject all day, but when you take a physical action, you're committing yourself to that thing, at least right there in that moment. And the thing is, humans, our limitation, we can only be in one place at a time. Shows me something when someone shows up somewhere versus when they say something. Right? Those are two different levels of commitment. So with words being a dime a dozen, everyone having tens of thousands of them every day at their disposal, words become cheap and disposable simply because the circulation is so high. When the circulation goes down, such as with actions, because each of us humans can only be in one place at a time, it means a lot more to me when someone shows up somewhere than when they talk about being somewhere, when they talk about doing something and when they actually do it. We all understand that. So for you, being the smartest, not the loudest is about what actions are you taking that everyone can see and everyone knows, and you know, most importantly, you know that you took that action that really commits you to the thing that we're talking about here, which you know you've been committed to it, you know that you did it. That's that internal confidence. That's that real confidence. That's the kind of confidence that I talk about in this book, The Third Day. The real confidence that comes from knowing that you've done the work. The real confidence that comes from knowing who you are being as a person, which I cover in this book, The Mirror of Motivation. Both of these books you can get for free if you just scroll down into the show notes or description, thirddaybook.com and mirrorofmotivation.com. Let's recap today's class, which is be the smartest, not the loudest. Point number one, when your work is good enough, the results will say enough. You don't need to add to the conversation, just leave it where it is. Let your words do exactly what everyone says in the cliche about actions speaking louder than words. Let your actions do that. Excuse me, not let your words. Let your actions speak louder than those words. You don't have to talk about it if your actions are good enough. Point number two, sound and fury signify nothing. This doesn't mean that words don't matter, but sometimes noise is a distraction that people use to cover up a lack of substance. If and when you do call for attention, make sure that you have some substance, some meat and potatoes behind what you are doing. In my experience, the person making the most noise is the one who has the least amount of substance behind that noise. Now, are there exceptions? Yes, but understand that exceptions prove the rule. You will get your time to speak for yourself, whether through your actions or through your words. Just make sure you're prepared, because preparation is the hallmark of the professional. And point number three, there is a time to make noise and draw attention to yourself. Just understand that time is not all the time. Wisdom means knowing when to be loud and when to stay quiet. There's a use for both, but you got to be strategic about it, meaning there's a plan behind it. You're not just randomly doing it at different times and hoping that something sticks. So if you're going to make a mistake, make the mistake of saying less through words and saying more through actions. If you're going to make any mistake, do it that way. Actions make their point much more stronger, and they last much longer in the minds of the people who see it than words do. Because words are a dime a dozen. We all can talk all day, but not many people are willing to take actions behind the stuff that they talk about. When you do that, people remember it, people will notice it, and those are what get the real results. So all that said, get my daily motivation text. Send me a text right now. My number 305-384-6894. Tell me what you got from this masterclass, and let me know you want to get the daily motivation. I got you covered every single day. My group coaching program, Bulletproof Mastermind, where I do a live training every single week on mindset and on business. Any of you entrepreneurs out there, you want to get your shit together when it comes to your brand, when it comes to your business, when it comes to selling yourself. Any of you professionals, you want to make sure you start getting that business that you want to work on, that side hustle, you want to get it off the ground. If you want to connect with a group of entrepreneurs, people who are serious about their game, serious about their business, and serious about going to the next level. People are already making connections in the mastermind. They're doing business with each other. People are offloading tasks that they shouldn't be doing because they're meeting people who are actually good at stuff that they don't need to be doing themselves. All of that stuff is happening inside the Bulletproof Mastermind every single day, not only on the live trainings, but also in the member-only community that you get immediate access to as soon as you join. And also, for those of you who want to work with me one-on-one, I had a 3rd Day Mastermind. Both links to get full information on either one are both at workonyourgameuniversity.com, which is linked down below in the show notes. Work on your game. Dre all day.